Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and this video is going to be my review of the movie MAXXINE. So last week when me and the devs took a trip down to London, I went and saw the movie MAXXINE. Now, I did try and get Deborah to go and see it with us, and she was having none of it. She says, I am not going to go and see that. She hasn't seen the other movies, and she said it's too extreme for her. And it was violent in its own way, but I really thought she would have enjoyed it, but she never went, so I went by myself. So after I came out the movie, I did do a review of it, and I've got to say I'm going to change my views on that initial review, and this is why I've done a second one. So before I went and saw Maxine, I did of course go back to watch X. I want to thank my good friend Dave Ramsden for sending me over the 4K steelbook of this movie. And I will say again, I do not know why A24 do not treat they don't put their stuff out in the UK, the stuff that you want to buy. It's just not available in here. I just don't know what it's all about. It will come out in 4K eventually, steelbook, all that type of thing, but they seem to take forever to put their movies out in the UK for whatever reason. So yes, so I watched X, and of course I watched Pill. The director of all these movies, Ty West, has got a great eye for recreating certain time frames. Now, this does look like 1979. It's got some great music in it. The music is really essential to this film, as Maxine's music is. And also, if you haven't seen it, I do urge you to get this one, which is another one of his movies, which has got nothing to do with these two. And this is set in the 80s. And to be honest, when you look at it, you would think this movie was set in the 80s, was actually shot in the 80s because it's got that look of it, which I think that Ty West has got a great eye for. And this is quite a slow horror film, if I'm honest, but it's a good movie nevertheless. And I'll tell you what, the actual you would think we were watching a movie from the 1980s. So yeah, so I watched these back to back. And I thought this was, like I say, I think this is such a great movie. It's such a great horror movie that looks like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre in look, not really in what happens. And I just think this is a great movie. Then, of course, I watched Pearl. So Pearl is set in 1918. So obviously it doesn't really look like a 1918 movie. It's not black and white, but, and silent. The monologue in here and the ending of this movie is just second on Mia Goth's acting in here in Pearl is the best acting she's ever done in my books. I can't wait to see what she does next. So slight spoiler here. Pearl, I think, is the best out of these three movies. I think they've really nailed it with this one. But I'll go a little bit later on why I think that this is a kind of standalone movie, and I think more of it is a standalone movie after watching Maxine. So Maxine is set in the year 1985, and as I've said before, Ty West can really recreate a year. Now, what he does as well is he actually's got the sets to look everything in the clothes. It looks like a 1985 movie. The music that they picked is just sensational. It's the type of music, and he puts it in the right places, and it's just brilliant how he does it. The start of the movie when you see Pearl going for some acting, it's just trying to go and get a part. And then the music starts off as ZZ Top, sharp dressed man, and she's strutting past all the people who are waiting there. And she says, "Don't even bother. Maxine Minx is going to get that job. I nailed it." It's just a character is just absolutely brilliant. So I was really taken with this movie when I started to watch it. Now, what I will say is the problem I had was I was trying to think, is it going to be better than anything to do with the best one, which I consider Pearl? Forget about that. If you see this movie, forget that Pearl exists, and I'll tell you why a bit later on. So I wish my mindset had been slightly different when I went into this. Now, what I wanted to do was I wanted to see this movie for the second time with a different mindset. And of course, I think it was only shown at the cinema for 1 week or even 2 weeks at the most, which is just ridiculous because I would like to go and see this definitely next week because it's only been out a week as far as I know. And you can't see it. It's not on. So, I mean, I don't know if it's every cinema, but I know my cinema is not going to show Maxine. I might show it like once or twice late at night, but I don't know why that is. So anyway, I'm not going to get a chance to go back and see it. But my mindset is when I watched this one, I watched the whole movie, I enjoyed the movie, but I thought to myself, oh, I thought this would be the best one. I thought they would have done everything times 10 in this one compared to the other two. And just think of this, if you think of this more like a direct sequel to X, forget about Pearl when you're watching it and think just how it follows on from X. And I think it's a much more enjoyable movie. That's why I wanted to go and see it again and just think of it as a sequel to X. Forget about Pearl at this moment. So the movie, like I say, starts in 1979. The music is great, the acting is great. There's a lot of violence in it, and some of the things. There was one scene in it. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm going to say. When she sees this bloke and he pulls a knife on her, so she pulls a gun on him and gets him to do something, and then she sorts him out in a certain way. And everybody, there was about 20 people in the cinema. We all went, ooh, because it was so descriptive in our thought. But it was brilliant. It was a bit of a level of violence you weren't expecting. I'm not going to go into any spoilers in this one, but of course, this is set at the same time when the Night Stalker, as you call Richard Ramirez, he was out at the same time. So you've got a serial killer on the loose, and you've also got lots of murders happening around about where Maxine is, and she gets look. The police do think that she's got something to do with these murders, although she doesn't, because of some police who are trying to hunt the Night Stalker down. So she's getting embroiled in that. Now, as well, I don't want to go too much into this, but there's a private eye looking for her who's Kevin Bacon, who's a real scumbag, and he is trying to find her, and then he's trying to blackmail her as well for a certain reason. I don't want to go too much into it because I'll give like plot twists away. Speaking of plot twists, if you haven't seen it yet, don't look at the Internet Movie Database lineup for who's in the film, because when I saw it, it kind of give it away a little bit of how this film is going to go. Unfortunately, but it didn't really take anything away from it. I did enjoy this movie, but I will say you probably have a better time if you watch X. Don't watch Pearl, and then go and watch Maxine. I think you will enjoy Maxine a lot more. Go back and watch Pearl as a standalone movie. I'll probably watch Pearl a lot more than I will watch X and Maxine. And when I do watch X and Maxine, I'll watch them both together and treat Pearl as a separate entity. If this had been released after X and Maxine, I think this would have been the perfect way to do it, personally. Now, I do know that a lot of people are saying that it's not as good as they thought it was going to be. And I did think that. And I needed to get back to it the second time, kind of forget about Pearl and just look at it as how does it fare up as a sequel to X. Hopefully it'll come out in Blu-ray or streaming quite soon because I do want to get and see it again. And I just know that A24 seem to drag their feet for whatever reason in the UK when they release stuff. And then they release them in, I would say, just really average versions when you think, you're joking, aren't you? I mean, this is the kind of thing that you want. You want this type of thing to come out when you're dealing with a franchise like this. So final thoughts on Maxine. I think it's a great movie. I think it looks spectacular. It looks like it was made in the 80s. So it's got the looks there, the acting's there. It's got some great characters in there. It's got some hyper violence in it. It's got amazing acting by all actors, and also Mia Goth is brilliant in it. But best acting is by far in this. So I'm going to stop talking about Pearl because we're here to talk about Maxine. It's a good ending to the trilogy. Do I think there could be more? Yes, I think there could be more because there's a lot more to talk about on with Maxine the character. Don't forget, Maxine, this character, is only in her 20s. She has got a lot more of her life to go. And don't forget, this was shot in 1985. So she could be coming up to, maybe they could leave it a few years like they did with This Is England, and they could have her aging a bit naturally, Mia Goth, and she could be coming back this character in the future. You never know. Don't forget they could do some more with Pearl because between Pearl and X, there's a huge gap there. There's plenty more things to sort of avenues to explore with these movies. So the reason I need to go back to this because I was looking online and I saw this thing that said 5 unanswered questions about Maxine. And it went into a few things because I've not been looking at anything to do with it until I actually saw the movie and I started to look at more reviews of it. And there was a few things on there, and I thought, oh, I didn't, especially with the ending. I thought, I didn't really, did I get that or did I not get that? I can see this movie being a little bit more than I thought it was on initial viewing because I think I was too busy looking at it to say, is this the best movie out of the lot? And when it wasn't delivering like the sort of stuff that Pearl delivered, that being the best one, I think I was holding it up to the wrong movie, basically. So that's why I wanted to go back to the cinema and see this one more time to see if those things changed my viewpoint on Maxine. Because in my head, when I was thinking about the possible ways that it could be, the story could have been told, which I didn't really get at the cinema, I thought, yeah, this has made this movie a bit more interesting. So unfortunately, I can't do that, but I hope to get it rewatched soon. That's why I was going to rewatch it, then talk about it on this review, but I can't do that because it's gone out of the cinema. Unfortunately, not get a chance to see it until it comes out, either streaming or physical. But I do think that this is a great trilogy. I think it's a trilogy like no other. I do think this is the best movie, but I do think that you should kind of disregard this when you're going into Maxine. Think of it more. Watch this one, then watch Maxine. I think you get a lot more out of it because unfortunately, this movie is so good that you keep comparing it to Pearl. And I think, on hindsight, that's the wrong way to do it because you'd be doomed to fail because it will never live up to that one. But it's not that type of movie. X is a certain type of movie. Pearl is completely different, and Maxine is quite different as well. It's got a kind of like it's really like an 80s movie, like an 80s slasher movie with certain twists, and it's got a few twists in there which I really enjoyed. But in my opinion, Pearl will always be the best one in this trilogy. But X and Maxine are a great companion piece together, and do watch them together and get this watched separately, if that makes any sense. So, thanks for watching. You take care, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers.